Hello, I'm Mike Camp with the William Bond Company. This is video 2 of 2 on the FTE reduction quotient. The first video was an overview of the calculation and talked about Safe Harbor 1 and Safe Harbor 2, and also mentioned the easy application. This will go into just a handful of details of the actual calculation. First item is, if you have an FTE reduction quotient, can you still get the full loan forgiven? And the answer is yes. So the FTE reduction is the portion of total costs, total payroll and non-payroll costs, that are going to be eligible to compare to your PPP loan. So it's not a portion of your PPP loan, but a portion of the total cost. So if we had a $100,000 PPP loan, but in the 24 weeks, we actually spent $200,000 of payroll and non-payroll costs, we could actually have a 0.5 FTE reduction quotient and still get the whole loan forgiven. The next item is an option you have as it relates to calculating the FTEs. So an FTE is 40 hours per week, and you can calculate the FTE with what I just referred to as straight math. So think of 10 hours being 0.25, 20 hours being 0.5. You can also elect, though, what's called a simplified method. So anything less than 40 hours is 0.5. So 39 hours down to 1 is 0.5. And 40 hours and above is 1.0. So if that's easier for you, you can use that simplified method. So every employee will either be a 0.5 FTE or a 1.0 FTE. So the reference period, you get to choose what your reference period is. And there's 2 or possibly 3 options as it relates to the reference period. And you want to make sure you're picking the one that is the lowest amount. So option 1 is February 15th, 2019 to June 30th, 2019. Option 2 is January 1, 2020 to February 29th, 2020. And if you consider yourself to be a seasonal employer, you actually have a third option. You can choose any consecutive 12-week period between May 1st, 2019 and September 15th, 2019. And again, you want to make sure you're picking the lowest. Next item to bring to your attention is some calculations within the PPP forgiveness application are based on whether the employee makes under $100,000 or over $100,000. This is a calculation that does not matter. So go ahead and calculate the FTEs for all employees, regardless if they make more or less than $100,000. Next item is what's referred to as FTE Reduction Exceptions. So we have the easy application that can make this easy. We have Safe Harbor 1 and Safe Harbor 2 that can essentially eliminate the need to look at the FTE reduction quotient. But even if you're calculating the FTE reduction quotient, these next items that I'll list off are to be excluded from that calculation and not work against you. So 1, you are unable to hire a similarly qualified employee. Number 2, you made a good faith written offer to restore any reduction in hours at the same salary or wages during the covered period, or if you happen to pick the alternative covered period, and the employee rejected that offer. You get to exclude them. Any employees who during the covered period were fired for cause. So you get to exclude those individuals. They voluntarily resigned, or they voluntarily requested and received a reduction of their hours. Now, in thinking through the mathematics here, what you want to do is you don't include 0 by excluding these individuals. You still get to the benefit of what you were historically paying them. So if they historically were a 0.5 and they meet one of these exceptions, then just treat them as a 0.5 during the covered period. However, if you actually hired somebody new, so you fired somebody for cause and you want to exclude them from this calculation, but you actually were able to hire somebody new for that same position, don't go ahead and use that exclusion, because that would actually be double dipping. So the fired for cause is going to be a 0. The new person that you've hired is going to be a 1.0. So you're still going to have a full 1.0 FTE for that position. So if you've rehired that position, then you don't use these exclusions, is kind of the biggest thing. Another item is the application is you're able to submit the application before the end of the covered period. Now, while this is possible, there's very, very little guidance out there as it relates to the FTE reduction calculation. If I have the 24 weeks, if I submit my forgiveness application after, say, 16 weeks, and I have 8 weeks remaining, there's no guidance as of right now on the FTE reduction calculation. Do you treat it for just the 16 weeks that you actually were paying payroll before you submit the application? Or do you still need to run these calculations through the entire time? That is an open question right now. So those are just a couple of nuances, specifics to the calculation we wanted to bring everybody's attention to. I encourage everybody, go get the WVCO forgiveness calculator, walks you through all these details. It's a great tool. You can find it at WVCO.com. Look for the WVC COVID-19 Resource Center. About midway down, right-hand side, you're going to see a link to the calculator. And as always, please feel free to reach out with any questions. Thank you.